Mika and the Witch's Mountain is my first hearing of Team Shebang. They apparently have an entire suite of games, both already released and upcoming, with a type of shared universe going on. I have no familiarity with that, so if you want the deep lore of how the Ice Cream Shrek in this game is connected to their other games, you'll have to go watch Body Video or something. I ain't the guy. I'm just here to discuss the demo the developer has kindly provided to me ahead of its public release for Steam Fest and give my impressions of it. Story setup is simple. Mika climbs atop the titular Witch's Mountain to be taught the way of the witch by Miss Oligari, an old witch who reminds me just a tiny bit of the Witch of the Waste when she withers in Studio Ghibli's Howl's Moving Castle. And believe me, this is not the only Ghibli reference in this game. Bemused by Mika's childish naivete, Oligari challenges her to return to the top of the mountain all by herself, and then promptly yeets this elementary schooler off a cliff and down to the beach village below. Mika's family broom breaks on the way down, and upon having it jury-rigged back together by the local potter Allegra, is told that she can pay her some money for an even better broom. Mika heads over to Uber, downloads the app, somehow negotiates her pay without a union, and hence the mechanical premise reveals itself. Being an airborne gig delivery driver across the island and slowly working your way up through hard work, just as capitalism intended. In case it wasn't already obvious, Mika is clearly riffing on Kiki's delivery service for his main character and premise. Ghibli references are kind of this developer's thing, but also The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker for, well, a whole lot else. Most apparently for its visuals, of course, but also, if you played The Wind Waker, you already have a pretty solid idea of how this game feels in your hands. Short, steady, cute little kid player character with equal parts bounce-stir animation and reliable steadiness to her control. You even do a familiar looking somersault recovery when falling from high places. However, unlike The Wind Waker, it's not a dungeoneering action adventure with you hacking and slashing down your enemies. Flying in Mika is both pretty simple and unlike what I've experienced in other flying games. You press a button to mount your broom and start soaring around at a fairly low altitude. You press the boost button to give yourself an additional burst of altitude that Mika slowly glides down from, and also putting said boost on cooldown for a few seconds. There's another button that lets you dive down faster as well. Functionally, it feels more like a type of jump button than anything else, since your altitude is relative to whatever object is directly under you, so you can makeshift platform to greater heights by boosting from objects and buildings to greater heights, as long as you're mindful of the boost cooldown. It's very limited in the demo since you only have the single boost, but I get the impression that in the full game you'll be gaining more and more brooms, each one with better flight capacity than the last. But unfortunately, the demo doesn't give us any time to test the new broom we get at the end before cutting to the sizzle reel and ending the demo. The way the actual delivery system works is this. I wasn't really joking when I made the Uber Eats comparison, since it's based on a similar star system of quality. You can get a green, yellow, or red stamp based on the quality of your delivery, and only making a perfect delivery gives you green and hence procures payment for your work. Unfortunately, it is impossible to earn less than a green stamp for any of the 3 deliveries in the demo. I've done some testing off camera and can confirm that 2 of the 3 packages do have health bars and can indeed be damaged by dropping them from great heights or getting them wet, but the recipients of your deliveries don't acknowledge this at all. I presume this is because these are the tutorial deliveries meant to teach you the basics of flying and delivering packages without intimidating you, but it's a shame we don't actually get a direct feel for how any involved risk-reward mechanics work. Perhaps we'll be enlightened on that leading up to the game's release. In the end, the demo's more to give you a taste of basic game feel and vibes more than anything else, and said vibes are pretty excellent. The tone is gentle and earnest in a way that really does make it feel in line with games like The Wind Waker, and there's a similar sense of abstract scale that reminds me of that era. For example, the 3 main deliveries you have to make are between homebound old man Ovel and his seafaring fisherman grandson Opik. Talking to them reveals a melancholy story of 2 family members who miss each other dearly and don't get to see each other much anymore, because Ovel is now too old to sail the sea with his grandson. In reality, these two characters are literally less than 10 seconds away from each other. I timed it. But because this game calls such a bygone era of games to mind, it's easy to buy into the abstract scale of these characters being half a world away from each other. It's such a cool design conceit, one that I suspect most people don't think twice about because the game is so good at selling it, but as someone who does endeavor to pay attention to those details in games, I'd rather appreciate it. The game does this in other small ways too, such as the gorgeous Ghibli-esque FMVs that denote major story events, and the Zelda-esque grunts that happen whenever characters speak. Thankfully, they opt for that instead of Banjo-Kazooie-style word salad, which I've always kind of disliked. It's just not my kind of thing. I also rather like the character of Mika herself. Her writing believably communicates exactly what I expected her to be, a spirited but naive kid who's way in over her head. She's cocky, but in a way that's kind of endearing instead of insufferable. I really want this kid to learn better so she can succeed. Her naivete, combined with the game's wholesome tone, reminds me just a bit of Cat from Gravity Rush, another game I absolutely adore in large part for its vibes. I think I've said all I have to say, so I'll just point out that if you like what you see, the demo will go public for everyone on Steam Fest starting February 6th, and will come to all major platforms sometimes in Q2 or 3 of this year. It's also on Kickstarter right now, and good news, it's already surpassed its goal. But if you want to be involved, I'll have links in the description. Do keep in mind, I'm not sponsored by anyone for this video. I'm just an excited small YouTuber who saw an opportunity to get involved in discussing a cool looking new game and want to let others know about it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, and comment below with what you think of the game or the demo when you play it. And really, let me know what you think of this video. It's my first time making an edited, scripted impression video like this, so I'm happy to do more if enough people like it. Thanks y'all, have a good night.